Hey folks, Pete Serrano here. It is January 28th, mid-morning, and I just got out of a hearing on behalf of Dr. Richard Wilkinson, our Yakima physician who, God forbid, was helping people through advocacy and prescription of ivermectin during the COVID time. As you probably recall, he suffered some pretty hefty blows, including some limitations on his license, a $15,000 fine, and then submitting to a clinical assessment at UCSD. And while UCSD, University of California, San Diego, might sound appetizing to some, there was a mental, cognitive, and physical assessment of Dr. Wilkinson that would be required. So we challenged these conditions that the commission ordered after a 5-day hearing. And that case has been on appeal for roughly a year or so. We had our hearing this morning. It was scheduled for 30 minutes and lasted about an hour and 5 or hour and 10 minutes because the court really dug into some critical issues here. The court, initially, we had challenged, the compulsion of speech, the regulation of speech, and how the commission exceeded its scope and authority. The commission dug into a lot of these issues, and they said, hey, look, aren't there limitations on commercial speech? And we talked about how that plays into those limitations have to be in the case of untruthfulness or intentional deception. There were questions about whether or not any of the patients actually suffered harm. And of course, the medical commission, doubled back on the notion that, well, there were patients that could have gone somewhere else, including one who self-extracted from a hospital, and Dr. Wilkinson should have forced them into alternative treatment. It was a really interesting hearing because we had, again, 4 issues that were on appeal: whether or not that PACE assessment I mentioned was appropriately noticed, whether Wilkinson had proper notification of that, whether the penalty, the fine, was a retaliatory fine, whether or not the commission violated Dr. Wilkinson's First Amendment rights, and whether or not there was adequate, again, notice. The last one was whether or not the commission had supported its evidence according to the proper standard, which is clear and convincing, which is a very high evidentiary threshold. We kind of thought we were going to chart those waters, but the court opened and was just really on us again about free speech. Where does commercial speech, where does a blog end? Where does it, and become treatment? Where can the government step in? And I will tell you this, the court was very interested, in my opinion, in determining what rights Dr. Wilkinson should have as an MD speaking in a blog associated with his practice. Again, there were a lot of other questions about that really keyed me in on, I think the court's really seriously looking into whether or not the commission has supported its decision associated with Dr. Wilkinson's license by the adequate evidentiary threshold. So it's a long-winded way of saying stay tuned. I do think that the hearing really scratched out some critical issues. I do think there's a path forward to success. I do think that when we get this decision, it's really going to help shape speech, blogs, practice of medicine. And I'm quite hopeful that it may even hone in on some tangential and related issues to protect professional speech, personal speech, and when one's speaking in one capacity versus another. So there's a lot at play here. This case, I think, can really shape, in particular, medical professionals, licensing, and whether or not there are limitations that can be placed on their speech. I know I've said that a lot, but this case really means a lot. And there are several other doctors who suffered the same consequences during the pandemic that I think that are appealing their decisions, and they should be beneficiaries of this. So stay tuned. We've got to have your continued support on this case and all of our other cases, as you know, we're a nonprofit, and we've got to have the financial resources to keep going. We've grown our team intentionally to make sure we can keep up with the caseload of last year's legislation, the year before, and unfortunately, what's coming down the pipeline. So thank you. God bless. We appreciate your support. Please, please, please contribute to us and share with others. SilentMajorityFoundation.org is where you find us. Thank you.